Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Interviews with Entrepreneurs in South Africa. Today, I'm very, very excited to be talking to Kim Vermaak. She's an author, and she's going to tell us more about her books and her online courses. Kim?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really an honor to be on the platform and to share with your guests. So yes, I am an author. It's a fairly new thing. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. And there's a lot of things that I learned along the way. But one of the things is that I've always been very creative. You'll see at the back behind me is one of my paintings. But I've never really explored the creativity side because we really often are like just chasing the money in our lives. And round about the time when we had the first lot of load shedding, we were completely unprepared. We didn't have a gas cooker. We didn't even have a candle in the house. We had nothing, and it was in winter and it was freezing. And my daughter at the time was very frightened. So I started making up stories for her just to calm her fears. And I found that as a young person, when I was scared and I was reading books where there were, characters that were against all odds winning, and then they had all of these obstacles, that actually allowed me to find my courage. So the stories that I used to tell her were stories that really inspire courage in her mind. So in that time, I used to say, give me 2 characters and I'll make up a story around that. And then my husband and my daughter started encouraging me to actually write. And I always had lots of reasons why I didn't want to do that. But the primary reason was actually fear. What if I'm not good enough? How am I actually going to make a living out of this? And then you hear all of these stories like about Walt Disney that sent through his proposal to masses of people and everyone said no. And then I'm like, that's just not for me. So in any case, I plodded along. I learned a lot about business and about startups. I did several courses. And then the one day we had this cat that arrived at the house, and she was pregnant, and she had these little kittens, and then she abandoned them after 3 weeks. So we had to hand rear them. And the little kittens climbed up into the tree outside, but it was way too high for them to get down. So we sent my husband up and we said, get up the tree, clear away the debris, and get the kittens down because they've got no mommy to teach them how to get down. Which he did. And while he was climbing up the tree, I was thinking to myself, well, what are the life lessons that you can learn from climbing up this tree? And he had to take away a lot of the debris and that kind of thing. And so I wrote an article about the life lessons that we could get from this great kitten rescue. And a friend of mine who used to be a supplier more than 10 years beforehand had said to me that, contacting me, she said to me, did you write this article yourself? So I said, yes. So she said, why are you selling corporate gifts? You actually should be writing for a living. So I said, Natalie, seriously, I don't have the time to write a manuscript, send it out to masses of people, and then all say no. And, that's just really not for me. So any case, in this time, she said to me, look, I'm coming over for a cup of coffee. I mean, she's actually quite a particular lady. So she said to me, what kind of coffee do you drink? Because if you don't drink the coffee I like, I'm bringing my own coffee. So, so any case, she came through and she said to me, what are the problems? So I said, well, this and that and whatever. So she said, well, we're just going to cut through all of that rubbish. I'm telling you now, you don't have to send your manuscript out to masses of people. You can actually self-publish. And what is that? So Natalie held my hand for the first manuscript. It was 45,000 words. I then learned that in the genre that I wanted to write in, I needed to have something of at least 75 to 80,000 words. So I doubled that. And I wrote that first manuscript in literally 2 weeks. I did it in shutdown. Now, the reason that I'm telling you that I did it in shutdown is that we have an industry, in the corporate gifting industry, we have an industry shutdown which lasts for 3 weeks. And I use that time to write the book. So I'm mentioning it because right now a lot of the viewers are in shutdown. And if they have got a desire to do a creative project, and they know that they're not really going to be taking time away from their income producing activity, that is something that they can do. And I also had a look at my lifestyle that I had as an entrepreneur. You know, you have one day where you're like, oh, we're going to go to steak and have watch movies and everything like that. And then you have other days, which a lot of people don't talk to you about, where you think, how am I going to put petrol in my car? How am I going to pay my bills because my sales are not high enough? Particularly if a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with compliance, if they don't have compliance in their business, and sometimes their business gets cut off and it's very competitive. So there's a lot of issues that entrepreneurs face. And when I started researching about being an author and what it meant to be a book business owner, so not just the creator side, what it meant in terms of working with the book, I realized that books are actually an asset. There's something you put in, you build up the product, and over time, that asset starts producing income. So I thought to myself, I don't want to be the person that someone finds me and I've like died at the computer because I've worked myself to death. Like, yeah, here's Kim's corpse. Over an Excel spreadsheet. I wanted to have something that I could leave for my kids that would be a legacy for them. And copyright is something that lasts for an author's lifetime plus 50 years. So that means that the books can actually be something that I can produce for the children. So I then started exploring what would it mean to start earning money passively across the board. So I'm mentioning that because I designed an author course for brand new people. It's not a craft course. It doesn't tell you how to write passive and active voice or whatever. It gives you the basic tools that you need to start, to overcome fear, and some business applications that you need to know about. And that's basically what the course is about, to be able to assist people. But the books themselves, the first book it's a series, a 4-part series called The Chronicles of Nadine. It is aimed at women, but there are some men who have read it. And initially, I aimed it at teens and young adults, but I'm finding that my average readers are actually in the region of 40 years old. Even though my main character is a teen, I fashioned her around the same age as Joan of Arc was when she went out to battle, because then when you were 14 to 16 years old, you were of the age of consent and you could get married. So my character is about that, and it's the struggles that she goes through to be able to rescue her family and to fulfill her purpose. Because a lot of us struggle with what is our purpose. You think it's along a certain path, but then you are actually hindering your talents and what you are meant to be by sticking in a certain thing. So my main character has a really devastating thing that happens to her, and her family gets driven down into these tunnels by a dragon who is looking for her hatchling. And she's the very last of the Silverwings. And at the back of the book, there's actually life lessons there, things that she can learn from those characters. And I did that with intention, because my vision is that stories are actually about wisdom. We watch things like Game of Thrones and, other medieval things, and they're very sensationalist, and there's a lot of action and adventure and entertainment. But the true purpose would have been to sit around the fireside and speak to the younger generation and explain to them what is happening in life. And that to me is incredibly important. So my characters have real things that are happening now in their lives and how they navigate them. So one of my characters has got diabetes, and he has got it because obviously, he overeats. So it's a lifestyle diabetes. And you learn a lot about the fact that he had a purpose and he was going for that purpose, but because he wasn't able to have self-control, he lost his purpose and eventually he lost his life. They are in the books, I look at things that young people will struggle with. So broken relationships with parents, unplanned pregnancies. Have you ever had a job where you feel that the person you're working for has got a completely different value system to you, but you still are in the job and you don't quite know how to get out? I've put that into the book as well. So it's medieval fantasy, so it's got the fantasy part of it, but it is something that teaches people lessons along the way to help them find their courage. So I'm quite excited. The first book is out. The second book has just gone through to test readers, and it's got really, really good reviews. And I'm already about a third, well, three-thirds of the, no, 2/3 of the way through on book number 3. So so I'm quite excited about that, and I'm loving the journey. But what I have learned is that in this journey, you can't judge your initial results as being the end all, because what I've learned through the authors that have come alongside me and really supported me is that you got to look at it from a 1 to 5 year plan. That you're not going to get the results that you're looking for, immediately. This is not the lotto. This is like any business where you've got to put in the effort and the time, and eventually you're going to produce the results. But it does energize me. My daughter, who is now turning 18 in August, she said she's actually never seen me so excited about something. And the characters have become very real to people. So I got my test reader for book number 2 contacted me the other day and she said, I do not like this ending. So I'm like, why don't you like it? She said, it's not supposed to be like that. This girl is supposed to do this. And then I'm like, why do you say that? So I said, this is not like Mills and Boons where everything is a happy. I know that love doesn't work like that, but she should be doing this and this and that. So I said to her, like, just relax. Some of your issues are going to be resolved in the next book. So I said, but you have to understand that the character has been traumatized in book 2. So she's not ready to take those steps. She says, oh, like, okay. So it's so great because I was busy discussing with my editor. One of the characters is a medicine woman. She's older than than my main hero, but she plays a very prominent part. And then the editor says, well, I think she's this age. And I'm like, well, actually she's this age. She says, no. I think she's this age. And she's been told how old she is because they will just make all of the mystery go away. So people get so involved with these characters. And then the funniest thing is that I had an author come and visit me the other day. And my eyes were all red, and I said, I'm sorry, I've just been crying. So he says, oh, it's like something bad happened. So I said, no, I just killed one of my characters. And we said, it's only an author that's going to die over the death of someone you actually made up.
I love that. I love that. So how long have you been an author for now?
You won't believe it, but I started writing in December 2018.
Wow.
I actually told my husband that when I was 15 years old, I wrote 100 poems, but I lost those poems. So there was an author that contacted me the other day, and she said, well, she just writes in notebooks, and she hates computer screens, and she hates that kind of thing. So I said, you're going to have to change your terminology. So I said, because, I don't know how spiritual some people are, but I am a Christian. And there was a book that I read by, I can't remember the author's name at the moment, it slips my mind. And he says, in every person's heart, there is a dream. And it's a recurring dream. So it's not like, I think I'd like to climb Mount Everest. And then afterwards you say, oh, but I really hate the cold. So it's the kind of dream that just never goes away. And then he said, that is something that God has planted in your heart, that he wants to gift the world with through you, that he wants to bless the world with. And when you decide not to follow that path, it's almost an act of disobedience.
Mm.
And for me, I've often struggled to finish projects. I have fantastic ideas, but I'm not always able to finish the projects. And that one statement was very important to me because it made me realize I have to finish what I start. Because it's not just a whim, it's almost like an act of disobedience. This is what I was created for, and I need to get those stories out. And the interesting thing is that in book number 2, I deal with unplanned pregnancies, which is a very real problem for young girls. And I prayed, I said, Lord, please send me the people that are going to be impacted by this book. And you will not believe the number of women that have come along my path who've had an unplanned pregnancy and have maybe decided to terminate that pregnancy and are suffering with guilt and issues that have carried on into their current relationships and the way that they see themselves. And they just started appearing after I said that prayer. So I really believe that these books, besides the fact that they're fun and there's a lot of action and adventure in them, that the fact that they have got something in that speaks to people's hearts. And for every person, it's different. You know, one of the people said that the book is about motherhood, my first book. I didn't really think about it, motherhood. I'm thinking about, there's a girl, her family's taken captive. What does she do to get them back? But when she said why she thought it was about motherhood, I could say, I actually see that. You know, my husband, I asked him a question, what lessons did you get from the book? And then he said to me, your villain, even if his plans are thwarted, he still comes up with another way of exercising his plan. And so he said, imagine if all the good people in the world didn't throw up their hands and say, I'm over this, you know, it's too hard. Evil in society continues because good people give up and bad people don't. So, you know, so those are some of the life lessons that you can get from the book. There's numerous of them. Another life lesson that I thought was very important is, you know, you get some people that you're like, oh, they just give me a hard time all the time. They're grumpy, they're irritable, you know, they're full of nonsense. And in this book, the dragon has lost her child. It's the very last of the silver-winged hatchlings. And she comes out and she is furious and she burns down the village. And everyone is terrified of her. But the main character manages to see her in a moment with a broken egg and there's no hatchling there. And she wonders, is this the reason why the dragon is like that? And the lesson that we have is that when you have vulnerability and you show that vulnerability, you will draw people in towards you. Whereas if you're just angry and lashing out at the world, you repel them. So sometimes you need to be honest and you need to say, this is what I'm going through. This is what's happening to me. Not to use it as a crutch or as an excuse, but just to say, this is the reality that I'm working in. And you will be amazed how many people will come alongside you and say, I've walked that struggle. I understand that. This is what how can I help you? So my first book's main theme is about hope. The second book's theme is about forgiveness, and particularly self-forgiveness when you are the person that's actually made the mistake and it has devastated other people around you. My third book is about bullying and how to overcome bullying and how to understand bullies. And that sounds like very much like self-help books, but they are all novels. The reason that I've done that is I've got a massive amount of books, self-help books, and I start them and I don't finish them. But a novel, I read right through it. I'll read the whole weekend to finish it. So that was my vision, to be able to help people through novels. And then when you know someone who's facing a particular struggle, instead of lecturing them or telling them to go to counseling, which counseling is brilliant, but some people can't take that step to go for counseling. These books have got things in them that they can quietly work through. And I'm not a psychologist, I'm not saying that at all, but what I am saying is that it opens conversations. Because as a parent, you can say to your team, did you see what happened to the character in this book? What do you think about that?
Mm.
So it opens those conversations where people feel there's someone who actually understands some of the struggles that I go through.
Mm.
If you hang on 1 second, I didn't actually show you the book. This is the first book, The Last of the Silver Wings.
That's beautiful. What a beautiful cover. How did it
Thank you.
feel the first time you held it in your hands?
It felt very weird. I pushed very hard to get the book out in a certain time. My father was in hospital, and we actually worried that he was going to die because it was a kidney issue. And so for all the people I've known who've had kidney problems have never survived. So I had watched a thing about the author of Harry Potter, and she said that her mother died before she published. And I'm like, that's not going to be me. So I wrote the book in a major frenzy. It had a different cover, and I sent it down to my parents in Port Elizabeth. And then afterwards, I kind of reworked the cover and a couple of issues. But when I look at the book, I'm like, this is mine. I actually cannot believe that it's mine, that I did it, that I created it, and that people actually like it. And you know, when I speak to people and they become so personally invested in the characters, then that's like even more amazing, because it's like the characters are like real people to them. One lady said, yeah, I can't believe that this thing happened to this character and she didn't have more emotion about it. That's not right. And then I spoke to my editor about it, and I said, well, that kind of thing happened to me. I had someone who actually threatened to rape me when I was younger. And you know, put a lot of like guilt things, and like, if you do this, then that's going to happen, and people think that you wanted this. And I managed to escape the situation. I mean, by God's grace, it didn't happen, but I just moved on. I didn't go for trauma counseling and, you know, go through a whole lot of things. I just moved on. And I'm not saying that you mustn't go for counseling. Please, if you've had something like that happen, do go for counseling. The reason I didn't go for counseling is I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I put myself in that place. So I felt so bad that I didn't want anyone to know about it. But the reason that I'm saying that is that sometimes people have traumas that you don't even know about. And so it was very interesting that this person said that's not the way that you should react when it happens, when actually there are so many young people that do react that way. So this book has got a lot of people's experiences, people I know, things that have happened to me as well, in this book, so that other people going through those kinds of crises can say, someone gets me, someone understands what I'm going through.
Wow, your books sound absolutely fabulous. I also want to read them.
Well, you can get them on Amazon.
Okay.
And you can get them on Apple Books.
Okay.
You can buy the book directly from me on my website. We have an EPUB version, and I also have the physical copies that we deliver. So the book costs in South Africa costs 240 Rand plus the courier fee. And the courier fee is 70 Rand. So people can come and collect from me if they want to, but sometimes it's just easier for us to courier the book to them.
Okay. And when they say can get them from you, where can we find you online?
Okay, so my website is www.kimvermaak.com, and it's .com because my brand is an international brand. They're not just a local brand. And then if you go to the store section, you can then purchase the book online there. And then obviously Amazon is the most popular way to purchase the book. The only thing that I find with Amazon is that the courier fees into the country are so expensive that if you are with Amazon, people are most likely to buy the ebook instead of the physical book. But okay. Yes, I do have some stock of the physical book on my premises.
Okay. And how many copies have you sold so far?
Sure. I'm not really sure, because Amazon's got this thing where they give you page reads, paperbacks, and they give you the ebooks. So the first while I put it out for free download, and and there were well over 190 copies that were downloaded. Then I changed my pricing structure. So once the brand got out, it went on to ebook. I'm not sure the actual quantity. I know that in royalties, I made about 1,000 Rand off Amazon's ebooks. And then paperbacks, Amazon's probably sold about 4 of them. Physical books in South Africa, I think we're looking at probably about 20 copies that have been sold so far. So yeah, it's still early days. What I do find is because it's a series, there's a brand promise issue. Some people are like, I'm not buying the series until you prove to me that you are going to finish the series. Like when you watch a movie, you read a book, and you're like, hey, when's the next one coming? And then there's nothing. Yes. And I read a review from someone the other day. They've been waiting 10 years for one of the authors to finish like the next book. So you'll be happy to know that book 2 is on pre-order on Amazon. Okay. It's actually finished. I just have 2 test readers who have to finish it. They look for little glitches that we don't find because you become too familiar with your work. Mm-hmm. So that is, I put it on Amazon to release in November, but it probably is going to come through earlier. I just gave myself a little bit of grace because with Amazon, if you don't release your pre-order at the time that you say it's going to be released, they penalize you and you're not allowed to do any pre-orders for the next year. So I gave myself a bit of a safety margin. But so far, it's gone very well. It's back from editing, back from the first test reader. The second test reader is 50% of the way through. There's 1 more test reader to go after that, and then we're ready to format and sell.
That's super exciting. So if you had to meet somebody who wants to publish a book, what advice would you give to them?
Okay, my advice is get over fear. So on my YouTube channel, I've actually got 3 modules, and they're also on my website. I've got some free modules, and the first module is to get over fear. So in that training course, one of the things that I've mentioned is 3 specific authors that I've read: Roald Dahl, Danielle Steele, and Wilbur Smith. Now, Danielle Steele sold more than any of the others. She sold over 800 million copies of her book or her books. And I put down criticisms that all of those authors have received. And the reason that I did that is because you're always going to get criticism. It doesn't matter who you are. We're not all meant to have the same taste. Someone wrote about Danielle Steele that her books are boring, and that she only ever writes about women in distress, which is not really true because I've read a couple of her books. I've read them, particularly when I need to have a mental holiday, I'll read a Danielle Steele. Wilbur Smith, someone said that at page 30, they threw the book down on the ground, and when they picked it up again, they read through until page 100, and what was on page 100 will haunt them for the rest of their lives. About Roald Dahl, who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, someone said that, it's completely immoral because Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that Willy Wonka only eats vegetables, but he seduces children into eating sweets which are bad for their teeth. And I'm like, oh, these guys and this lady have got the most terrible criticisms, but they are so accomplished. So I would say, get over your fear, start writing. Because there's a thing that we say in the publishing industry is that you can edit rubbish, but you can't edit nothing. So when you start and you start getting into your rhythm and you start getting the stories out there, then it will start happening. And the first book is never going to be as good as the ones that are down the line, but you have to start. There are a couple of tools that I share with authors that do the course, free things that are available, because sometimes people worry about the cost. You can load your book onto Amazon as an ebook on a pay as you go kind of option for free. They even have book cover designs that you can upload. So it costs you nothing to actually start publishing and test the market. And at the end of the day, you can build up a legacy for you and your family if that's what you choose to do. So I would say just start. Someone is going to like your work.
Oh, that's such a wonderful, optimistic message. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, Kim. That was such an awesome interview. I think you're going to inspire a whole bunch of authors out there to get over their fear and get started.
Thank you so much. It's really been a lot of fun being with you today. Thank you.